So, no, I wouldn't say I have a passion for HR.
Welcome back to Human Resources for the People. It's a human capital revolution. Today we're going to be talking about New York's minimum wage. It's going up again. This article is from Seifert Shaw. They're a pretty famous employment law firm. Check them out. Link down below, of course. So the state's minimum wage is increasing on January 1st, 2024. I think it's a little bit interesting. For example, in New York City, Long Island, and Westchester, it's going up to $16, whereas the remainder of New York State is only $15. Now, let's be clear here. The rest of the United States, so currently the federal minimum wage is seven and a quarter. Or not most, but many of the states abide by that. And that was forced onto them, many years ago. Of course, minimum wage has been set for a long time. The point I'm trying to make here is obviously southern states, for example, are quite poor and very much are similar to similar to this sort of dynamic where $16 I think is honestly not that high in New York City, but is high for the remainder of New York State. Well, throughout the United States, it's kind of the same song and dance, right? There's been one minimum wage for all of the United States, and this at least recognizes that. Although the new statutory minimum wage rates apply to all New York employers regardless of size, which is interesting. It got removed. I mean, I agree with that. I never like specializations. I don't like special exceptions to law. If you believe that people should make X amount of money, then regulate that regardless of whether or not the business is small or whether or not it's big. Ultimately, it kills small business, and that's why they've made those distinctions, right? Minimum wages always kill small business, and bigger businesses are able to compete better. But the minimum wage also set wage rates beyond 2026, and in January 1st, 2027, they're going to move to the consumer price index for urban wage earners and clerical workers. And so the idea is that they're going to be able to maintain their purchasing power. Now, frankly, I want to be clear here. Minimum wage is really not that impactful. For example, something only like 3% of American workers are on minimum wage, and it's really not that important. I would imagine that the same is true for New York, that most employers go well beyond it because otherwise you have an issue of competing for the exact same employees, and that never works out. But it won't. I think the interesting caveat to all of this, and why obviously the state government recognizes that that it kills small business, is that the annual raises will be paused when the prior year's CPI is negative or when the New York State unemployment rate increases by 0.5%. Now, I don't understand if the CPI rate is negative, why you wouldn't decrease it. But beyond that, if the unemployment rate increases by 0.5% or more, then it is suspended. And so I don't understand if this is truly someone's wage and what they should be earned and not, simply a handout scheme. Why would you only pause it when unemployment increases by a 0.5%? That doesn't make any sense. It's their wage. They earned it. And that's because it's a welfare scheme rather than an actual intent to reward people appropriately. And what was also interesting is that they didn't change the exempt thresholds, and I find this to be pretty important. This is a great example of how these things don't make any sense. So exempt threshold. So exempt is you're exempt from the Fair Labor Standards Act, meaning that you would not get overtime if you worked more than 40 hours. In New York City, the salary threshold is 1125 per week, 58,500. I'm just doing this off the cuff because I can't remember exactly. I think the federal threshold is like 38 something, but they make these distinctions, or they did make these distinctions for whether or not they're 11 or more employees, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that that's very frustrating if you really honestly think about it. What if that employer with 10 or fewer employees has, is all 10 are making $2 million? Like, why wouldn't you? Or all nine, or nine are making $9 million, but one of them is making 50,000. I don't find the argument
What do
that
you think about
size
today's
matters with
video?
respect to
Please
business is one that's
comment
very
down below.
particularly
Like,
cogent or makes a
share,
lot of
and
sense.
subscribe.
Let
It
me know
really
in the
helps out.
comments down
And
below,
I'll
and I'll
see you
see
on
you
the
on the
next
next
one.
video.
Bye,
Bye,
guys.
guys.